What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. The Dead Rising franchise is one of the more interesting franchises out there. The franchise, of course, started off really well with the original 3 games, then getting worse with each entry and update, causing the company that made the Dead Rising franchise shut down. After they released the first Dead Rising game, Capcom outsourced to a company called Blue Castle Games, and they would hold the helm of the Dead Rising franchise. While that was worrisome at first because the original studio who did the first Dead Rising really nailed the atmosphere, I have to say Blue Castle Games knocked it out of the park when it came to Dead Rising 2, their first attempt. So everyone who is a fan of Blue Castle Games now, also known as Capcom Vancouver, which is what I'll be calling it for the rest of this video, it was nothing but uphill from here. However, we know that when they released Dead Rising 3, it was lukewarm at best. The reception wasn't as great as Dead Rising 2. A lot of people like Dead Rising 3. I'm not one of those people. There's just something about Dead Rising 3 that just really drives me away from it. I just can't get into the game, and I absolutely dislike Nick as a character in this franchise. Well, anyway, if Dead Rising 3 was the coffin for the franchise, then Dead Rising 4 was the nails and the shovel that buried it. Yeah, Dead Rising 4 really isn't that good. Don't get me wrong, when this game first came out, I was so ecstatic. I was a huge Dead Rising fan. Frank West was back, this was set in Willamette again, it was Christmas time now. If you don't know me and you don't know anything about this channel, I am a huge sucker for Christmas aesthetic. I just love it so much. So Dead Rising 4 was already getting points from me before I've even played it. And you know what? No matter what people say about this game, I love the Christmas aesthetic. So through my opinion, no matter how bad it is, no matter how bad my experience was, this will always be at least a 1 out of 10 because that Christmas aesthetic just fucking kills it. And actually they do a good job at decorating the town in Dead Rising 4 with the Christmas aesthetic. So, you know, good for that. Anyway, tangent aside, anyway, I did play it, I did beat it, and I even paid for the DLC for Frank Rising. And I have to say, it was a bit underwhelming. This game left me meh at best. When I first played it, I was having fun. I honestly don't know what I saw in it. This game really feels lifeless. And, you know, sometimes during Christmas time, I might boot it back up just because I like the aesthetic and I like video games taking place during Christmas time. And I have to say that at least it does that well. Well, after Dead Rising 4 released to not so well reviews, it actually ended up shutting down the studio behind it. Yeah, Capcom shut down Capcom Vancouver, and the Dead Rising franchise was dead, right there in the water. Well, however, behind the scenes at Capcom Vancouver, it turned out that there was a Dead Rising 5 being worked on before the shutdown. Although not much at this present time was known about it when these rumors started floating around. Flash forward a couple years and slowly more and more started being revealed on what this title was supposed to be like. Like all the way up until last week of filming this video, we actually have what appears to be Dead Rising 5 footage. It's in a very early state, but this is still very cool to see nonetheless. So a technical level designer portfolio was found, and inside of that portfolio was footage of what Dead Rising 5 was. Well, at least the work that he put into it, that this is what this portfolio was going over. I'm assuming the guy was putting this together to look for other jobs. It's actually kind of an interesting read, and if you're interested at all in any of the portfolio stuff or reading more about this Dead Rising 5 build, then I recommend you giving it a read. I'll have the link to it in the description down below if you are interested. But yes, this portfolio had a copy of Dead Rising 5, not a playable one, but we have footage of what Dead Rising 5 in an early state looked like. Now for this show, I normally play the build and then I talk about it, but I'll make an exception here because there's really no physical way for me to play Dead Rising 5 because it was only just videos in the portfolio. So we have 6 videos here of work that this guy put in on Dead Rising 5. Now we're going to start small to the little technical stuff that I don't know anything about, to the more big stuff that people would normally come to see these leaked videos about. Some of these videos just show some debugging and level work that this guy worked on, like this hotel, or the Barrio District versions 1 and 2. There's also very rough footage of the loot container system. This video basically shows off how easier the looting can be on the memory. In previous Dead Rising titles, loot was strewn all over the ground, making it difficult to tell what was important or useful. It was also extremely taxing on the resources rendering it all out. This was my proposed solution: a loot container system that would allow us to contextualize minimize different drops, clean up the environment, and free up some memory. Like I said, all that stuff was pretty small, but this is probably the biggest part of all of this footage, the actual gameplay that people come to see. And we actually do have gameplay of an early build of what was called the camps. In this footage, you see a lot of what the game was roughly going to look like and play like. Apparently, this is an early build of a jungle level that they had at one point. Tons of zombies to kill, survivors to talk to, and psychos to kill as well. Looking at the gameplay, the maneuverability looks to be way better than Dead Rising 4. With more polish, I can't help but think that this would have been actually fun to play. I really like how the camera zooms out when Chuck is running around, and what's really cool is that this footage actually caps off with a boss fight. I'm sure this level was just to show off what the designer was capable of doing. An early prototype of the jungle level with plenty of zombies to kill, and several gang bases to raid leading up to a final boss. I also created the fence spawners, bush spawners, and trunk spawner tech for this level. The El Guapo boss fight was in the early phases, but you get the idea. Some crazy kind of drug lord with an electrified metallic fake arm. What else do you need to know? Like I said earlier, you're playing as Chuck in his Dead Rising 2 Case Zero outfit? Okay. Maybe this was a prequel to Dead Rising 2, or maybe Chuck was just a placeholder character. Either way, it doesn't really matter, and I don't know. Now, if you're watching the gameplay, you can actually tell in this footage that there is dialogue between characters. So maybe using this dialogue, you can kind of piece together a rough story of at least what the camps was about, and maybe compare that to the leak that came out about Dead Rising 5 story. Yeah, there's a leak that came out that kind of reveals what Dead Rising 5 story was going to be about, but it's a leak, so I really don't trust it. You know, take those with a grain of salt. If you're a Sonic fan, you know what I'm talking about. Sonic Dimensions, anyone? However, one thing I'm leaning toward is that this game might have actually taken place in Mexico. Now, this is a no-brainer thing to think if you actually just read the title. Dead Rising, Dia de los Muertos. I am so sorry if I messed that up. It's a shame that Dead Rising 5 never came to light. If you're a fan of this franchise, you know how heartbreaking it was toward the end of it. It sucks that the franchise died with Dead Rising 5. Dead Rising 2, off the record, is my favorite Dead Rising game. I made a video about it not that long ago. Well, I mean, I guess it's like a year now, but not that long ago. And this PS3 game gives me way more enjoyment than this Xbox One game, or than this Xbox One game. And it shouldn't be like that, because what the fuck happened, Blue Castle? How did you make two great games? Sure, one was just a director's cut, but I'm still counting it just to give you another tally, I guess. How did you go from that to just obliterate this franchise? But who knows? In the light of all these remakes going around, I'm sure maybe that the first Dead Rising game will surely get a remake. Think about it. If Dead Space, a game from 2008, can get a remake, then why can't Dead Rising, a game from 2006, get one? It is of the era of remakes, and Capcom is really big in that. Maybe after the Resident Evil 4 remake, we might hear something about it. I don't know. That's my guess. Well, guys, that is going to do it for me today. Did you guys even know that there was a Dead Rising 5 out there? Did you know about this footage? And if you want to see this footage for yourself, like I said, I'll have that portfolio in the link down below so you can see it. And let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. I have an Instagram, I have a Twitter, and while you're in that description, why don't you go down there and click those links and give me a follow. It'll be much appreciated. Also, while you're down there, can I get this video up to 10 likes? That'll be much appreciated. And hey, again, just real quick, while you're down there, can you hit that subscribe button and the bell for post notifications? Because I wouldn't want you to miss a single upload of mine, and it takes like 2 seconds, and I would greatly appreciate it. Well, guys, that's going to be it for me today. You take care.